Anne Marie Fahey, daughter to an alcoholic with 6 children, worked as a governor of Delaware's appointments secretary. She went missing on June 27, 1996, missing a date with the man she planned on marrying, Michael Scanlon. 3 days later, her older sister Kathleen and Scanlon searched her apartment together. They found perishables rotting on the counter. They called the police. Robert, Anne's brother, contacted Michelle, Anne's therapist, asking for help. Michelle's reply was, for the sake of confidentiality, "Can you think of anyone who would abduct your sister?" Robert contacted a friend, Kim, who told him about Anne and Thomas Capano's affair. Capano and Anne were having an affair, but Anne broke it off recently, leaving Capano brokenhearted. They had gotten dinner together 3 days ago, and Capano stopped at his house before dropping her home. After the call, several investigators rushed into Anne's house to investigate. Quickly, they found her diary, spanning over the last 2 years. She was madly in love with a married man. Name went unsaid, until an entry on April 7, 1996, where she labeled him a controlling, manipulative, insecure, jealous maniac. Tom Capano. This left Thomas Capano as the main suspect. However, since he was a righteous and upstanding citizen, they chose not to assume and jump to conclusions and only start by questioning him about Anne's disappearance. For all they knew, Anne could be in hiding with him. Thomas Capano was a political strategist, city attorney, prosecutor, and legal counselor to one of the governors. When questioned, Capano admitted to taking Anne to dinner and insisted that he took her to his house afterwards. He recalled Anne being fragile as she fought with her sister that week, and that she would be going to the beach the next day to clear her mind. Detectives weren't happy with this answer and chose to go to Michelle, Anne's therapist, for a better lead. It was there that they found out that Anne was actually scared of Thomas Capano, that he was a creepy stalker that harassed her. She just never said anything because she didn't want to embarrass her boss, Governor Tom Carper. Detective Robert Donovan, a part of the Wilmington Police, was actually the first to discover Capano's first lie. Capano said that he stopped at a Getty station to buy cigarettes on a Thursday night at 10 p.m. The worker there knew Capano and said that he never stopped by, and the store itself closed at 9 p.m. Upon further investigation into their dinner, it appeared that Capano was the decision maker in where they would be eating. The waitress noted that Anne barely touched her food. They were clearly fighting. Little by little, evidence came pouring in. Anne's hairdresser stated that she was scared of Capano. The government got a search warrant and searched Capano's home. They found a bloodstain remover and small stains in a room. A rug and a love seat were also missing. They also noticed that Thomas had saved each of his 3 brothers from going to jail. Louis Capano explained how Anne slit her wrists on the love seat and rug, and how Thomas asked for help to get rid of it, and give him an alibi for a specific period of time. A year later, Jerry admitted to lending a gun to Thomas for self-protection from a supposed extortionist trying to kill him and his family, but not his boat, in the event that he had to murder someone. He received back his gun, unfired. On June 28th, Capano was sitting in his car, reading the paper. Jerry had asked whether he had done the job, to which Capano responded yes, and that he needed Jerry's help to hide the body. After much resisting, Jerry gave in, and they brought a white igloo cooler onto his boat, drove to a depth of 200 feet, and, for the sake of gore, dropped the igloo tied in chains and anchors down to the bottom. Upon arresting Capano for reasonable suspicion, the state needed evidence against Thomas Capano. On July 4th, Ken Chubb noticed said cooler floating to shore. He caught it, thinking it was a nice cooler that someone threw away, but it was Anne's body. Capano was arrested, denied bail, and sat in solitary confinement until Judgment Day. The cooler was tested for lead around what appeared to be the bullet holes, and they found red fabric, which the Faheys noted that a red dress was missing from Anne's closet, on the body. So, here's the evidence that they had. The cooler, the red fabric, the lead test, witnesses testifying the rocky relationship between Anne and Thomas, and Thomas's lies, which make his statements unviable. How does this relate to forensic science? To test for lead on the cooler, it was SEM tested. To test for blood, they used the Takayama confirmatory test. To test for DNA, they used gel electrophoresis. All this is used to solve a crime. Now in court, testimonies rolled in from many of Capano's previous mistresses. It was clear that Capano was a polygamist. He cheated on his wife throughout their relationship. But all eyes fell on Debbie McIntyre. Debbie McIntyre was one of the many mistresses of Capano's, being off and on for 2 years. She testified in exchange for immunity. She admitted that in May of 1996, she completed a straw purchase for Capano. This betrayal led Capano to hire several convicted cocaine dealers like Tito Rosa and Nick Perillo to murder Jerry and McIntyre. However, Perillo spoke up about Capano's detailed plan and handed in a map that Capano drew himself. During the 8-day trial and cross-examination period of Capano taking the stand, it was clear that he was an arrogant and egotistical man. He thought that by playing the victim, he could win over the jury's hearts. He victimized himself so much, to go as far as blaming his own brother and mistress about his shortcomings. He explained how this was McIntyre's doing, that she shot Anne in the back of the head and how he helped cover it up because he wanted not to shame his mistress. Afterwards, it was only right for him to go back to Anne's apartment to turn the air conditioning on, none of which he could explain as to why. Capano was then forced to talk to someone he himself successfully put in jail 20 years before for committing the same crime, murdering someone and dumping their body at sea. Despite Capano's justification for good and bad lies, the court established that he had no morality and he would be heard from no further. In their closing statements, the state wanted Capano to be charged for premeditated first-degree murder. Defense wanted McIntyre to go to jail instead. The jury ended up siding with the state because of how ignorant and cruel he was, and for his lack of humanly concern for Anne. In short, this was narcissism to the extreme. In short, 12 weeks and 3 days after the initial trial date, on January 17, 1999, Thomas Capano was convicted of premeditated first-degree murder. Things worsened for Capano in jail. For starters, he put a child molester in touch with his teenage daughters so he could run about prison without any rules, a molester that would soon be getting out. He was originally sentenced to death by lethal injection, but it was overruled and he was sentenced to life without parole. And on September 19, 2011, he was found dead by a heart attack on the floor of his prison cell.